very much like what happened to oil, where oil went negative. I think we could see a similar thing with gold and silver, where they just don't have the inventories to maintain faith in that system, and they have to let the price run up.
This week's special with Miles Franklin Precious Metal Investments. 2022 Silver Krugerrands for only $409 over spot. To order, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. Hey everyone, this is Elijah K. Johnson with Liberty and Finance. And back with us today is the Chair of Citizens for Sound Money, Jim Forsythe. Jim, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me back so quickly.
Definitely. Well, we wanted to have you back on for one reason, to kind of get an in-depth understanding of Citizens for Sound Money and really the reasons to have sound money, right? But before we do that, I wanted to take a look at where we've been in 2021 for the sound money markets, I guess you could say, gold and silver, and where you see them heading in the near future. A lot of people are looking at the markets and saying, this might be the time, especially in January, for precious metals to take off and, realize their higher value. So your perspective on where we've been and where we're going in this next year.
Yeah, it may surprise people for me to say that I think 2021, as far as precious metals, was kind of highly successful. Not in the sense of the price movement, but I track flows quite a bit, like the flows of SLV versus PSLV. PSLV saw, it was a 50 million ounce increase in its holdings. SLV saw quite a few outflows after that initial surge in silver squeeze. And if you look at, deliveries from the futures market, they're extremely high. If you look at physical buying, it's been fairly off the charts over the last couple of years. So the key is so people don't get demoralized, look at what the flows are doing versus the price. The futures market's highly leveraged, and there's a lot of fractional reserve stuff going on in terms of the spot market. Maybe leasing to multiple people, and so the price can kind of do anything depending on what's going on. But the physical flows are what really matters, because eventually, when there's not enough physical to have the futures market operate like it is, they're going to have to let the price go up. So in that sense, I think 2021 was highly successful, contrary to what people might think. And I think that's going to continue into 2022 in terms of the flows. People are stacking physical. People are taking taking delivery off the COMEX, and we don't know when the price will break, but I think it will at some point. And I don't mean the futures market will break. I don't think COMEX wants to go out of business, but very much like what happened to oil, where oil went negative. I think we could see a similar thing with gold and silver, where they just don't have the inventories to maintain faith in that system, and they have to let the price run up. When I say they, like the bullion banks, Bank of International Settlements, et cetera. Plus, you've got China and Russia out there holding on to quite a bit of gold, and they could probably set the price of gold to whatever they want, whenever they want to, when it's in their interest. So I don't think anybody can make really. I know some smart people who predict price movements and have done extremely well in the past. And this year, all of them have pretty much been wrong. But so I just urge people to continue looking at where the physical flows are going, and that'll tell you what's coming. We just don't know when.
Definitely. And one of the things is that 2021 had, the silver squeeze. And we even got that reported in the mainstream media, right? On the day that it was happening. So your perspective on that, and are you looking for further silver squeezes to happen next year?
Well, it'd be great to get some more media attention, but in terms of silver squeeze, the story that everybody or a lot of the media got wrong is, they reported it, then they said, well, it can't work. It didn't work. It's done. But if you look at the same time, Wall Street Silver started from nothing and is, it's over 150,000 people. And the stack photos on there are unbelievable. It's a great community. They're growing every day. They've got billboards out. So that helped jumpstart the publicity for that. And now it's the kind of thing that I don't think is going to get stopped. And the mods on that channel just do a really fantastic job of informing people with their YouTube videos, and the community is just fantastic. So Silver Squeeze succeeded in the sense of it brought the awareness to people, and it's created a movement that's growing, and I don't think will be stopped. It's just this whole notion of we're going to create a short squeeze by buying SLV options or something like that. It was kind of how it started, and then it's morphed into an understanding that silver is money, that it's good for protecting your assets, and that fiat is in trouble, and the word on that is spreading and growing, and so I think in that sense it's successful.
Definitely. And your own effort, Citizens for Sound Money, has a very similar mission of getting real money into people's hands and helping sound money actually become currency again. If you can kind of remind our viewers of that mission that you have. Yeah,
so it's a two-part mission. It's one, to encourage the use of sound money, and then two, to protect people's right to do so. And you notice that I say encourage people to use sound money. It's not, and then protect people's right to do so. In other words, you can use sound money today. We don't need the government to back the dollar. In fact, that might be a bad idea because they always mess it up. But instead, just opt out of the fiat system. Or not necessarily opt out, but create a parallel system where you're using sound money for day-to-day spending, for savings, and then you won't be subjected to all the negative effects of inflation. We've all sat there. They took us off the gold standard, and people didn't realize that the government never made gold money. People did. And it's time that we do that again, and we don't need to wait for the government to take action. And then the second part is protect people's right to do so, and that's where we'll be doing lobbying efforts to protect, cryptocurrencies, asset-backed digital currencies from overburdened regulations, and because that's the second stage is when they're going to want to seal all the exits, from fiat, because once people start fleeing fiat, they need to kind of seal the exits. And I think that's a big part of why the price action in gold and silver has not been great this last year.
And how has your experience in government really helped you be able to really fulfill that mission that you have at Citizens for Sound Money?
Well, that second part, we're really focusing on the first part first, which is getting people to use sound money. And that's building a base of, that's why we call ourselves Citizens for Sound Money, as we envision, as we grow this movement, the citizens are our members. And then, when we go to Congress or to state governments, we can say we have, X number of members that are using sound money. And then we're also gathering resources, financial resources to help us. The second stage is going to come a little later. But yeah, I think the experience that I had is helpful. I went door to door knocking on doors with Rand Paul, so that's a good contact to have, and Dr. Paul as well. And then just kind of having been in the state Senate, kind of understanding the workings of things, which is, a lot of people think, the normal person can't do anything to change things, and that's plain and simple not true. It's what they want us to believe. I remember there was a bill proposed that put regulations on homeschoolers in New Hampshire. Well, you had, there's like 2,000 homeschooling families. Maybe 10% of them showed up, like 400 families. That was the biggest turnout for a committee hearing that state's seen for decades, probably. And the bill was dead on arrival. As soon as those people showed up, we're talking not a huge group of people, 400 people. But 400 people show up, and all of a sudden the bill's dead. So there is a lot that we can do, because all politicians, they want to get reelected. And when they start getting scared that they're not getting reelected, they will change things. And it's much easier to prevent legislation than to create legislation. There's definitely a big status quo effect. It's always risky to pass something. It's not very risky to do nothing. And so that's why, rather than try to push for backing of the dollar with sound money, we'll get people to use sound money and then just stop them from messing it up.
I think one of the things nowadays is that a lot of people are concerned about their privacy and their freedom, and sound money gives that, right? Your perspective on that and the privacy and the freedom aspect of sound money.
I'm a big fan of asset-backed digital currencies, and one could argue that you're giving up some of your privacy. The good news is it's not a Fed digital currency where they definitely know everything. This one, they need to know your wallet address and who you're sending to, and there's some layers of privacy protection. But in the end, with someone good with computers like the NSA, they can figure quite a bit of stuff out. So that physical aspect, I think, is absolutely vital, where, if you have an asset-backed digital currency, you can redeem it and hold it physically. And, you look now and you go into convenience stores and it says, due to a coin shortage, exact change is required. There's definitely this push out to get people out of cash. And I think that's very dangerous. And, I've never bought the argument of if you have nothing to hide, you won't have a problem with it. That's just not the way it works. If they can monitor everything you do, they may be benign to begin with, but at some point, if things go bad, it can be, very bad. And you look at stuff like carbon credits and social scores, that the thought of a Fed digital currency where they start saying, okay, well, you did this, this, and this, so we're going to lock out your account. I mean, they do that with the dollar to countries. Why wouldn't they do it to individuals as well? If a country does something the United States doesn't like, they put sanctions on them, which keeps them from being able to use the dollars. So, yeah, absolutely, the ability to do private transactions is vital. That's one thing, most cryptos are missing is you can't redeem it and then make a face-to-face not anonymous, but private transaction. Although there are some cryptocurrencies, like I think Monero, that does that where it's truly as private as something like that can be.
I think that's so key. Is a lot of people think it's convenient to use just your card and all that, have things just use currency that can be tracked and everything, and as long as you're not doing anything illegal, you'll be fine. I think the key is that's if the government doesn't turn against us, right? If it stays benign and all that. And it's like, well, if you look at history, that's obviously not what's happened. Those kinds of controls can be abused by government. Obviously, that kind of power can be abused. Now, if we look at what you had mentioned about the homeschooling laws and how, the law didn't make it through because so many people, just a few people at the end of the day, a very small percentage of the homeschooling community showed up to protest. What kind of effect do you think a small community like the precious metal community can have when it comes to sound money and really advocating for us to be able to use sound money again as currency?
Well, I mean, if you look at the Ron Paul campaign in 2008 and 2012, you could really think of that as it was a large chunk of that was the sound money community. Including Larry Lepard, who took out a USA Today ad for Dr. Paul all on his own. And that launched things into prominence. And it's been here it is a decade later. The movement has grown in strength. So it can definitely have a big impact. And then if you get a group like ours together and you start building kind of membership or in the list. There's a lot of powerful things we can do where, we push out something saying, hey, call your representative on this bill. Elections are won by a very small number of people. There's a certain number of people that are registered. That's a smaller percentage than the total population. Then there's a certain amount of those registered people that actually vote. And then there's some that are always going to vote this way or this way. And then you come down and there's a small group of people in the middle that can swing elections. And that's what the politicians are afraid of. If you have like a single issue voter that says, you vote for this bill that regulates crypto or regulates gold and silver, you're going to be out and I'm going to vote for your opponent kind of thing. So, lots of things we can do. The important thing now is to build membership, to spread the word, to get other people involved. And that's what we're focused on right now.
Definitely. And can you expand on what you have been doing and some of the accomplishments of Citizens for Sound Money?
Yeah, we started out in April. And we're involved with the Kinesis heavily. We're starting to branch out on that. I'll get to that, but we're involved with Kinesis, which is an asset-backed digital currency. They also have cryptos on the exchange, and all the fees go into a fee pool, and over half of that gets paid back out to users. So I think of it as kind of like a sound money credit union, where you're a member and get some of the profits by holding or doing different activities. So one of the things we've done in that is it was kind of both a kind of a fundraiser and then also an opportunity to spread ownership in that system. Is they have these tokens, KVT, which is Kinesis Velocity tokens. They're kind of like an investment share, but they're a digital token where 20% of the fee pool gets paid out to these, and there's a limited number of 300,000 of them. And you're able to get them through these minting activities that you can do. And so we got a group of, our board members together who basically lent C4SM their KVT to sell, and then we would mint replacements. And we would sell them at or near cost to people in limited quantities because we wanted to spread ownership in the system. If you have a sound money system like this, but it's owned by a handful of people, that's not what we want. We want this to be very, very broadly owned. And to date, we have sold KVT to over 900 unique individuals, which nearly doubled the number of owners in the system. And that represents about 1% of the Kinesis users. So we're really happy with that. And then at the same time, if people wanted a bunch of them, a wealthy individual wanted a bunch of them, we'd sell them for a higher price, and that would act as a fundraiser. And so we've been very successful at both spreading, and at the same time, all this also builds excitement and enthusiasm for the system and using sound money. And so it's been both a successful outreach campaign and then also very successful fundraiser for us. So that's in terms of fundraising, it's built up our KVT balance. We started with zero, haven't really had any donations yet, have a very significant balance of KVT and gold and silver now. And we've diversified 10% of our account into precious metals mining shares and some base metals as well. So that's all building the war chest. At the same time, we've got coins designed, Citizens for Sound Money silver coins that have been designed. Kinesis is going to be minting those for us, and we'll be able to sell those to help raise awareness. You could tip somebody with them. And the Kinesis referral yield just came out. And so we're trying to tap into that to spread the message, because you can email somebody gold or silver, digital tokens, and when they click the button, they'll sign up for an account that generate, and then they get the free silver or gold. Then that also generates a referral credit for you, so that you get 7.5% of their fees paid from then on out. So with our members, we've created a system for that where they can send gold or silver to their friends to get them to sign up, and then we'll reimburse them up to half an ounce of gold or half ounce of silver, half a gram of gold, half an ounce of gold. That would be nice. We also started a YouTube channel, not nearly as big as yours, but we've done some interviews. We had Monetary Metals on, which is a system where people that have large holdings in gold and silver can lease them out to jewelry manufacturers and earn a yield on that. And between Kinesis and Monetary Metals, both adding a yield to gold and silver, I think that's absolutely vital to bring gold and silver back as money. That's something gold and silver had before, and it needs to come back. Then we'll be interviewing Cash Gold, which is another asset-backed digital currency. We'll be interviewing them next week. We also there was a guy that wrote a kid's book on sound money, The Illusion of Money. And I saw his interview, and we contacted him, and we managed to get in just at the last minute to order an additional, I forget how many copies, several hundred copies of that book. And it's a really wonderful book, very cute, tells the story really well about two potential kings after the king died. One promised them everything, everything will be free, everything will be wonderful. The other guy said, you're going to have to work hard. Well, they elected the guy who gave everything free, and it led to the collapse of their currency. Because the money had been gold, and he started issuing IOUs for it, to pay for all his promises. It's a really great story. That's available on our website. Or if you get KVT for your kids, you'll get a copy of the book for free.
Do you see in the future that sound money will be used alongside fiat currency? Because, right now, how it is, we have to use dollars because it's the only way to pay taxes, right? So that's kind of the way that the government mandates the use of their fiat currency. But in the future, do you see it being sound money being used alongside of fiat currency, or it just replacing fiat currency altogether?
I think alongside it, or even if they back the dollar by gold again, do you trust them enough to keep a 1-to-1 ratio, right? How often are they audited? Do you trust them not to do it? So the mistake people make is, you could call the dollar a currency versus money, right? So it can be used for transactions, but it's not a store of value, where gold and silver are stores of value and therefore true money. The people mistake is saying, okay, well, I can only spend dollars, so I have to hold dollars. But you need to save in sound money. It's okay to transition that to a currency and spend it, but you don't want to be holding currencies long term. You want to be holding sound money long term. And yeah, I could definitely envision seeing that. There's a movement in the gold space, the free gold component, which actually doesn't want the governments to use gold and silver as money, but instead, encourage people to save in it and spend in it. And something like Kinesis, when the debit cards come out, hopefully in January, you'll be able to have your gold and silver holdings, and then when you swipe your card, it'll automatically sell a little to pay. So you're still transacting in dollars, but only for an instant. As you swipe the card, it sells your gold and pays for the product.
I think that it's a bit liberating in a sense. We can be our own central banks in a sense. We can take control of this regardless of what the government ends up doing with the fiat currency. We can still hold gold and silver and really essentially transact in it.
Yeah, the invention of the blockchain was absolutely, I think, revolutionary. And when I saw Bitcoin a decade ago, I said to myself, couple this with gold, and that's going to be the solution. Because, absent something like that, you could use gold and silver for face-to-face transactions, but it would be impossible to use them digitally. And that would, in this day and age, that would be a killer for using it as money. But now with the blockchain, absolutely, you can use gold and silver as money, no problem. And it's really exciting. I definitely think this is the end game solution. Definitely.
Well, Jim Forsythe, thank you so much for your time today. Before we let you go, where can our viewers find you online? And are there any last thoughts you'd like to leave with our viewers?
Online, citizensforsoundmoney.org, and it's with the number 4 rather than spelled out 4. I'm at Jim Forsythe 5 or at 4soundmoney on Twitter for the C4SM account. And we've also got a Discord channel. I don't remember the link for that. We can get that for you for the show notes. And that's a good place to talk to other members online and ask questions about all these different systems.
Jim, once again, thank you so much for your time, and God bless.
Thank you. You too.
This is Dunnigan Kaiser, founder of Liberty and Finance. I'm now a licensed gold and silver broker for Miles Franklin. Call me directly for the physical gold and silver that you need at the best price with personalized private service from one of the oldest and best companies in the business. 31 years strong, A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, 0 complaints, licensed and bonded for physical delivery, vault storage, or precious metals IRAs. Excellent prices, privacy, and confidentiality. Pay by check, money order, ACH, bank wire, or Bitcoin. Satisfaction guaranteed. For fastest service, just call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 888-81-LIBERTY. And either I or one of my sons and fellow brokers will call you back as soon as we can and understand your needs.